Early in the morning, hashtag Meredith Corey dog abuse hashtag shot to the top of trending topics. A video captured by a bystander showed a woman kicking a dog, sending the large golden retriever tumbling into a ditch. The golden retriever fell dramatically to the bottom, its eyes tightly shut and limbs stiff, appearing lifeless. It wasn't long before people recognized the woman in the video as me. I'm a notorious celebrity in the entertainment industry, known for attracting negative attention. Anything I do tends to spark outrage and land me on the trending list. Let alone abusing a dog. Within moments, it reached the top spot on the entertainment rankings. Trolls and bystanders alike flooded in, unleashing a torrent of vicious insults at me. Soon enough, another celebrity chimed in. It was my relative, Rowena Landor, an up-and-coming starlet. This rising star had built her career by stepping on mine. During our time on Country File together, she came across as hardworking and considerate, while I appeared lazy and selfish. Rowena posted on Twitter, "Spreading kindness starts with me." She attached a photo of herself tending to a dog. Clearly, it was a jab at me. Predictably, her fans showered her with praise for being beautiful inside and out, unlike certain people who were cruel and heartless. Another wave of even harsher criticism ensued. At this point, my agent remained surprisingly calm. She didn't think I was expendable as an artist. In fact, I was her only client. But being criticized was a common occurrence for me. It meant I was trending again. Let them have a go for now. Later, you can post a photo with the golden retriever and explain. That'll be the end of it, she said calmly, sitting beside me and munching on crisps. However, people discovered that this wasn't just an ordinary dog. On the contrary, it was the beloved pet of Mr. Pemberton, the city's most influential socialite. Do you know how much Mr. Pemberton loves this dog? A rising starlet was blacklisted just for spraying perfume near it, making it sneeze. Meredith didn't just annoy the dog, she kicked it. It's definitely not going to end with just a blacklisting. My agent lost her composure. She turned around, pulled out a suitcase, and started packing. "Audrey, are you going on holiday?" I asked curiously. "Packing to run away." "We're in deep trouble," she exclaimed. "Surely it's not that serious?" "I only gave that stupid dog a little kick," I said. "Here's what happened. Yesterday, I went for a promotional photo shoot. That daft dog appeared out of nowhere and wouldn't leave me alone. I didn't want to see that person, so I gave it a kick. I barely used any force. It dramatically fell over, playing dead. It was just being dramatic, a trick it often used. Because in the past, no matter what it did wrong, I would forgive it when it acted like this. Unfortunately, I'm not used to its antics anymore. So, before it could react, I quickly slipped away." "Stupid dog? You dare call Mr. Pemberton's beloved pet a stupid dog?" she said, looking frantic. Suddenly, her phone rang. She answered it, trembling. When she put the phone down, she was as pale as a sheet. "It's over, we can't escape. Mr. Pemberton is on his way here." My agent received an invitation for a show called MasterChef Diner. This is a top-tier program, broadcast live with extremely high ratings. The invited guests are usually Oscar winners and Grammy recipients. Although my popularity is high, I'm not considered A-list and have no significant works to my name. Normally, I wouldn't have access to such a prestigious opportunity. In the past, I would have been overjoyed. Now, however, I'm devastated. The reason? The main sponsor of this show is none other than Mr. Pemberton, the London socialite. So this invitation feels more like a trap. "Meredith, from what I gather, if you don't go, you won't be able to get any work in the future. I think perhaps it's time to consider retiring from the entertainment industry," my agent, Audrey Joyner, suggested reluctantly. "I'm torn because of this. I don't want to have any association with Barnaby Pemberton. But from what I know of him, despite his cold and unapproachable demeanor, he's a man of his word. Although initially, Barnaby and I had a bit of a tiff over the custody of that dog, overall, we parted on decent terms. So, inviting me to participate in this show might be related to him. Perhaps the production team has lowered their standards and is after a bit of controversy? After all, while I'm genuinely disliked, I'm also genuinely popular. Audrey, how much are they offering for this show? My agent gave me a figure. My eyes lit up. As expected of a top-tier show, they certainly don't skimp on the budget. For the sake of being able to buy a large country house and retire early. I gritted my teeth and said, Audrey, let's accept this offer. I officially announced my participation in MasterChef Diner. The internet was flooded with schadenfreude. Not long after, Rowena Landor also officially announced her participation in MasterChef Diner. My agent was exasperated. Is she a leech? We just can't shake her off. Rowena Landor's fans, however, were ecstatic. Rowena's fans were mostly middle-aged women who saw her as a daughter figure. Their most favored son-in-law candidate was none other than Mr. Pemberton. Barnaby Pemberton was handsome, well-born, and capable, the complete package. He was barely worthy of their fairy-like daughter, in their eyes. Moreover, they had managed to unearth some tantalizing clues. Once, the car that picked up Rowena belonged to Mr. Pemberton. Not only that, but she also had a photo with the back of a golden retriever. That golden retriever bore a striking resemblance to Mr. Pemberton's beloved dog. The person who could walk Mr. Pemberton's dog must surely be close to him. Rowena Landor's fans were celebrating as if Christmas had come early. Of course, even at a time like this, they didn't forget to throw a few barbs my way. In the blink of an eye, MasterChef Diner was about to air. My agent dropped me off at the live broadcast venue. The show had a rule that celebrities couldn't bring their agents or assistants. So my agent could only wait outside, and we said our goodbyes reluctantly. If the production team gives you a hard time, try to endure it for the sake of avoiding the breach of contract penalty. She paused, then continued, but if it really becomes unbearable, I'll move heaven and earth to buy out your contract. I was both speechless and touched. I reached out and gave her a hug. Audrey, don't worry. It'll be fine. I bid farewell to my agent and walked in. This time, 5 guests had been invited in total. Rowena Landor and I were the new guests for this season. The other 3 were Crispin Grafton, the award-winning actor, Gwendolyn Cargill, the pop diva, and Wilfred Seabrook, the rising young actor. When I arrived, Rowena, Gwendolyn, and Wilfred were already there. Rowena had said something that made Gwendolyn giggle, and Wilfred was looking at Rowena with tender eyes. As soon as I entered, the atmosphere suddenly cooled. Especially Rowena and Wilfred, their looks towards me were not great. My troublesome fans had spread rumors about Wilfred and me, editing videos of us together. Wilfred thought I was riding on his popularity. Whenever we appeared on shows together, he kept his distance from me, publicly expressing his disdain and contempt in public venues. At the same time, he was Rowena's devoted admirer. Unfortunately, Rowena wasn't interested in him. I greeted Gwendolyn. Wilfred, seemingly afraid I might greet him, quickly retreated to Rowena's other side. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. Who wants to greet him anyway? Narcissist. Shortly after, the award-winning actor arrived as well. Sorry to keep you all waiting, but I'm not the last to arrive. We still have one mysterious guest. Crispin, who was both a guest and acting as the host, was responsible for cueing the proceedings. Our last guest is quite extraordinary. He's the youngest on the rich list, and this is his first time participating in a variety show. Crispin was great at building atmosphere, rattling off a string of teasers. At this point, both the live audience and viewers at home had their suspicions. Especially Rowena's fans, who had already flooded the Twitter feed. He must be here for Rowena. Ah, he loves her so much, I approve of this match. Crispin, having built up enough suspense, finally revealed the identity of the mysterious guest. Here he is, let's welcome our mystery guest, Barnaby Pemberton. To be honest, I had a bad feeling the moment the celebrity host mentioned there would be a mystery guest. I tried to appear calm on the outside, but inside I was a nervous wreck. It couldn't be, could it? Was Barnaby Pemberton really going to be on this show too? Wouldn't that mean we'd be running into each other constantly? How awkward would it be to see an ex? What on earth was Barnaby thinking? I couldn't help but hope against hope that it wouldn't be him. But then the host announced the name, and that tall, handsome figure appeared on set. My last shred of hope vanished. Barnaby Pemberton was undeniably good-looking. At 6 feet 2 inches, he had broad shoulders, a slim waist, and long legs. His grandmother was mixed race, giving him striking features and light hazel eyes. Add to that his cold, dignified demeanor. Standing there, he made Wilfred Seabrook, the current heartthrob, look like an assistant in comparison. Barnaby wasn't alone. He was holding the lead of a large golden retriever. The dog was excited, barking madly at us. If Barnaby hadn't been holding it back, it would have bounded over already. Barnaby glanced our way too, his gaze intense. At the same time, the live chat exploded. Whether it was Barnaby's cool presence or the barking golden retriever, his appearance caused quite a stir. For a moment, no one spoke, and an awkward silence fell over the set. "What an adorable dog! May I pet it?" Rowena Landor broke the silence. Rowena Landor walked towards Barnaby Pemberton, her eyes full of affection as she gazed at the golden retriever. She reached out to pet it. I felt a pang of envy. I had to admit, Rowena's acting skills were impressive. Previously, when Rowena and I participated in Countryfile together, the host family had a dog. Rowena had made a huge fuss, demanding the dog be sent away out of fear. As a result, the dog was confined to the vegetable garden. I had snuck a few bones to the poor thing. However, in the final edit, it appeared as if I had been the one to lock up the dog, while Rowena was shown giving it treats. But this silly dog, just like its owner, was quite particular. And clever too, almost unnaturally so. It could tell at a glance who genuinely cared for it and who didn't. Rowena was about to hit a snag, I reckoned. Sure enough, the silly dog suddenly leapt backwards, its face seeming to say, "Don't come near me, you're not worthy." It even used its paw to fling some mud onto Rowena's face. The set fell silent. The Twitter feed went quiet as well. It was the leading actor who came to smooth things over. "What an interesting golden retriever, Barnaby. Your dog is quite intelligent, isn't it?" Barnaby Pemberton nodded with restraint. However, I could see the pride in his eyes. Rowena Landor took the opportunity to sheepishly retreat to the side. Her fans also reacted, frantically defending her. Originally, this incident would have just passed. Who knew that Barnaby, that dog of a man, wouldn't let me off the hook, suddenly speaking up, "Meredith, don't you want to pet Carl?" "What Carl?" "This silly dog is clearly called Goldie." As soon as Barnaby said this, the previously quiet Twitter feed exploded. "Here he comes, he's here with his beloved dog for revenge." Because of Barnaby's words, everyone's attention turned to me. The looks from Rowena Landor and Wilfred Seabrook were filled with schadenfreude. Rowena had just been embarrassed, and now she was waiting for me to make an even bigger fool of myself to overshadow her. "Meredith, are you perhaps afraid of dogs?" the leading actor spoke up, trying to help me out. Barnaby stared at me intently. "Meredith, are you afraid of dogs?" This dog of a man was clearly determined to push me to the limit. I forced out a laugh. Such an adorable dog, how could I possibly be afraid? The silly dog thought I was praising it. It wagged its tail frantically. I take back what I said earlier about its high intelligence. I walked towards the silly dog. Before I could even reach out my hand, the silly dog crashed into my arms, nuzzling against me, refusing to leave my embrace. The live audience and Twitter feed suddenly fell silent. One could almost imagine all the viewers watching the live stream were stunned. Soon, the show proceeded to the task allocation stage. As usual, I'll be the chef, Wilfred will be my assistant, and Gwendolyn will handle the till. For the remaining roles, we need 1 server and 2 shoppers. Barnaby, Rowena, and Meredith, you can decide among yourselves, the celebrity chef announced. Shopping required 2 people. I didn't want to be with either Barnaby or Rowena. I thought I'd be suitable as a server. Just as I was about to speak up, someone beat me to it. "I'll go shopping with Meredith." It was Barnaby who spoke. Rowena shot me a fleeting, disgruntled look before sweetly saying, "Then I'll be the server." The celebrity chef handed Barnaby and me a shopping list. Our destination was a small market in town, a half-hour walk away. This episode's theme was country living, so the emphasis was on rustic charm. The production team hadn't even provided us with a car. Barnaby and I had no choice but to each carry a wicker basket and walk to the market on foot. And Barnaby was still bringing that silly dog along. The daft creature kept trying to squeeze next to me. "Biscuit, stay away from me," I hissed, my face cold. The previously excited Biscuit drooped his big head and sulked by the roadside. "Meredith, he's your son," Barnaby suddenly spoke up, his voice not particularly quiet. I startled, instinctively looking for the cameraman. Seeing that he had gone to the loo, I breathed a sigh of relief. "From the moment he chose you, he stopped being my son," I huffed. I had rescued this silly dog and raised him from a pup. When Barnaby and I broke up, I was determined to raise him well, even if I had to live on bread and water. But this daft dog chose Barnaby over me for a single sausage. Think about that. You're still hung up on that? Talk about holding a grudge, Barnaby's voice carried an unconscious hint of amusement. "Hey, man, we're not together anymore. Don't use that lovey-dovey tone with me." I felt thoroughly uncomfortable. Thankfully, the cameraman returned just then. On camera, Barnaby reverted to his cool, posh gentleman persona. I was finally relieved. Barnaby and I walked to the farmer's market. I was in charge of selecting vegetables and haggling over prices, while Barnaby quietly paid and packed everything into his wicker basket. After we finished shopping, we returned to the countryside bed and breakfast. "Meredith, I'm swamped here. Could you wash the vegetables?" Wilfred called out. Wilfred was the kitchen assistant, and at this time he didn't have much to do. It was actually his job to wash the vegetables. He was deliberately trying to make things difficult for me, looking for ways to keep me busy. To my surprise, Barnaby took over the task from me. Watching his back as he washed the vegetables reminded me of the 2 years we lived together. Back then, I was just an ordinary university student, and he was a poor lad working odd jobs. We squeezed into a tiny rented flat. To save money, we couldn't afford takeaways and cooked all our meals ourselves. Thinking back on those memories, I felt a mix of emotions. After Barnaby and I finished washing the vegetables, we thought we might have a moment to rest. But before we could, another situation arose. The celebrity chef was cooking when hot oil splashed onto his face, dangerously close to his eyes. This was no small matter. The production team quickly rushed him to the hospital. However, the live broadcast had to continue, and guests had already arrived at the country inn. What do we do without a chef? The director was panicking. At this point, it was too late to find another celebrity to save the day. As a last resort, they could only look among the staff. After asking around, no one knew how to cook. "Doesn't Rowena know how to cook?" "I saw you cooking in that previous show, and it looked quite good," a deputy director spoke up. Rowena Landor felt awkward. The truth was, she had done all the cooking. The production team had supported her by editing it to make it look like she did everything. She couldn't even use a rice cooker, let alone cook a meal. The production team looked at Rowena Landor with hopeful eyes. Rowena sheepishly said, "I'm sorry, but I sprained my wrist while filming earlier. The doctor told me to rest and avoid straining it." "I'll do it," I offered. As soon as I volunteered to cook, Wilfred immediately said he'd wash the vegetables instead of being my assistant. However, something even more shocking happened next. Barnaby volunteered to be my sous chef. Mr. Pemberton not only knew how to prepare vegetables but could also chop them skillfully. Finally, I finished the last dish on the menu and sat down to rest. Barnaby came over. He glanced at the camera operator, who then left. He sat down beside me, holding a handkerchief, intending to wipe my sweat. I immediately moved away. A flash of hurt crossed Barnaby's eyes as he slowly lowered his hand. "Meredith, can't we go back to how things were?" he asked softly. "Barnaby, have you forgotten what rubbish you said when we broke up?" I replied, expressionless. I stood up to leave. As I reached the doorway, I saw him sitting there with his head bowed. His fringe fell forward, hiding his deep-set eyes. He looked almost as if he were crying, appearing somewhat pitiful. In the evening, several guests gathered around to chat. The film star wasn't present, so Gwendolyn Cargill, the pop diva, temporarily took on the role of host. "Does anyone have any unforgettable romantic experiences?" Gwendolyn asked calmly. Wilfred Seabrook, a rising young actor with many female fans, tried to please them by saying he had dated before, but nothing particularly memorable. Rowena Landor, who maintained an innocent image, didn't speak of her past. She only said she wanted to fall in love, while frequently glancing at Barnaby Pemberton. When it came to Barnaby's turn, Gwendolyn thought this Mr. Pemberton wouldn't share his personal affairs and was about to skip him. Surprisingly, Barnaby took the initiative to speak. "I've been in love before, but I was abandoned. Still, I can't forget her," he said, glancing at me as he spoke. This instantly became the biggest topic of the show. Twitter was abuzz with discussions. I turned off my phone, enjoying the peaceful moment. I completed my day's work and fell asleep easily. Perhaps because of Barnaby's words, I dreamt of events from long ago. I was still a student then, and I met a young man working in a cafe. He was being troubled by a customer, and I stood up for him, which led to our acquaintance. The second time I went to the cafe, he gave me a free coffee. We started talking and found we had similar interests, growing closer. Later, we became a couple. We rented a flat together. I encouraged him to study hard, using money from my part-time job to buy him various study materials. I found a little golden retriever puppy. We raised the puppy together. I thought we would continue like this. After my graduation, after he got his qualifications, we would earn more and more money. We'd buy a small house and live in the city. Have a child, live an ordinary life. I had it all planned out, never imagining. He wasn't the poor boy I thought he was. On the contrary, he was a rich young man experiencing life. After his experience, he would return to his circle. And I was just a part of his past. His sister offered me £500,000 to leave him. The prince and Cinderella can only be together in fairy tales, not in reality, she said. Those words stung me. I was too young then. I felt my self-respect was more important than anything. I didn't take the £500,000, nor did I take Barnaby. When I woke from that distant dream, I felt my eyes were a bit damp. It seems I wasn't as detached as I thought I was. Able to completely move on from that past. On the second day of the live show, the production team brought in a guest to save the day. I no longer had to work as a chef, which made things much easier for me. Barnaby had also become much quieter. He stood silently beside me. That silly dog, however, still clung to me. I resigned myself to its attachment. What could I do? I couldn't actually hit it. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was my agent calling. My agent was excited. "Meredith, you've got fans now." I was speechless. I've always had fans. The title of the entertainment industry's most controversial actress isn't for nothing. These are real fans, not haters, and they're quite noticeable. My agent usually says that even negative publicity is publicity. But who wants to be insulted when they could be praised? "Oh, what's going on between you and that Mr. Pemberton?" "I've been following the live stream yesterday, and I was terrified, afraid he might do something to you. But later on, it seemed like he wasn't trying to get revenge." Just as my agent mentioned Barnaby, I turned my head to see him looking at me. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly made an excuse to hang up the phone. That evening, Barnaby Pemberton left in a hurry due to company matters. Before he left, he came to see me. "Meredith." He looked at me intently, but said nothing. His eyes, however, couldn't hide his deep affection. The look back made me uncomfortable. "I have to go now, but I'll be back for the next episode." "See you in a week." "There's no need." I couldn't finish my sentence before he turned and left. His steps were hurried, as if he didn't want to hear what I was about to say. There really was no need. He's so busy, why bother coming to participate in a reality show? Suddenly, I noticed someone standing in the corner. "Who's there?" The figure stepped out. It was Rowena Landor. Rowena's eyes were full of jealousy. "Meredith Corey, you're something else, aren't you? Hooking up with Mr. Pemberton. I won't let you get away with this." After her threat, she turned and left. I took her words to heart. Previously, when we were participating in the show together, a staff member had placed my name in front of hers. She had made that staff member's life miserable. The poor person even lost their job. So, I knew she wasn't just making empty threats. I became very cautious. Despite all my precautions, she chose the most brazen and shameless way to harm me. The following evening, as the live broadcast of Countryfile ended, I entered my room feeling slightly off. My head was spinning, and I felt feverish. I couldn't help but think about the cup of tea Rowena Landor had handed me earlier. I was about to call my agent when suddenly the door burst open. It was Wilfred Seabrook. He looked at me, equally startled. "Rowena gave me this key card." "Why are you here?" he asked, confused. According to the show's arrangements, women and men were housed in separate buildings. Wilfred had mistaken my room for Rowena's. He quickly noticed something was wrong with me. "Get out!" I hissed through gritted teeth. Despite being Rowena's lapdog, Wilfred was quite the playboy. He must have thought he could take advantage of the situation and started to approach me. Just then, the door was suddenly pushed open again. I sensed someone taking a photo of the scene with a camera. When my agent finally arrived, she rushed me to the hospital immediately. In my hazy state, I heard her crying. "Those bastards," she cursed bitterly. Then I heard a familiar voice, and someone held me tightly. "Meredith, don't be afraid. You'll be all right soon." When I regained consciousness, I found myself in the hospital. To my surprise, Barnaby Pemberton was slumped by my bedside. He wore wrinkled clothes, his face unshaven, and his eyes were bloodshot. "Meredith, you're awake." Barnaby's eyes lit up. "How do you feel?" My head was still a bit dizzy, but otherwise, I felt fine. What I was more concerned about was, how was yesterday's incident handled? Barnaby's face immediately darkened. He told me in a cold voice what had transpired afterwards. Only then did I learn how much had happened in the 10 hours I had been unconscious. Last night, I gave my phone to my agent. As my agent couldn't come immediately, she had no choice but to contact Barnaby Pemberton. Barnaby then reached out to a female assistant director. The assistant director sent everyone else out and stayed with me in the room. When my agent arrived, she accompanied me to the hospital. Barnaby also informed the production team that the incident couldn't be leaked. However, photos of Wilfred Seabrook and me still ended up on Twitter. Meanwhile, Barnaby quickly used his connections to suppress the spread. But some people had already seen them. Wilfred's fan base was in uproar. Wilfred hastily attempted damage control, claiming I had seduced him. Suddenly, Wilfred's fans, Rowena Landor's fans, and my haters were all attacking me online. Soon after, the production team released 2 video clips. One showed Rowena spiking my tea. The other showed Rowena handing the room key to Wilfred. These clips were enough to reveal the truth of the matter. It was Rowena who had planned the whole thing. The production team reported it to the police, and Rowena was taken away for questioning. "It's all sorted now, get some rest," Barnaby said softly. "Thank you for this," I said weakly. Regardless of the past, I certainly owed Barnaby a favor for this. Barnaby didn't say anything, just quietly cut some fruit for me. My agent came in, relieved to see me awake. She glanced at Barnaby, seeming to want to say something but hesitating. "Barnaby, you should go and rest," I said. Barnaby nodded and left. After he left, my agent started speaking rapidly. "You and Mr. Pemberton are really dating, aren't you? He's so concerned about you. You should have seen his expression last night. He looked ready to tear those people apart." It was terrifying. "Audrey, we dated in the past. It's all over now, let's not talk about it," I said. Only then did my agent drop the subject. "Rowena is truly rotten to the core. She and Wilfred are finished now," she said. Just as my agent said, Rowena was thoroughly exposed. In secondary school, she had led bullying campaigns against others. On reality shows, she had mistreated the staff. One staff member exclusively revealed that during filming, all the work I did was edited to look like Rowena had done it. In short, Rowena's reputation was completely ruined. Not only that, but she was also being investigated for criminal charges. As for Wilfred, he was taken away on suspicion of tax evasion and fraud, among other charges. The pair were finished. As for me, This incident completely cleared my name. I gained quite a few followers on Twitter. The day I was discharged from hospital, I had a talk with Barnaby. That year, when Barnaby and I broke up, it was my decision. In truth, it was because of my deep-seated insecurity. Those 50,000 pounds had stung me to the core. The reason I chose to enter the entertainment industry was also to earn money. Later, I realized that even if I had more money, Barnaby and I could never be from the same social class. Barnaby was always out of my reach. And Barnaby agreed to the breakup. Firstly because of my firm stance, and secondly due to pressure from his family. He had always been trying to break free from that family, even running away from home. Later he discovered that only by becoming strong enough himself could he leave that cage. So, he started his own company and worked tirelessly. It wasn't until he felt strong enough that he came to find me. "Meredith, would you give me another chance?" he asked. In the end, I still couldn't give him an answer. I had thought that someone as proud as Barnaby Pemberton would surely give up after being rejected time and time again. However, it wasn't long before I encountered him once more. "Meredith, it's all right if you don't agree. I'll still be here for you," he said. Our relationship was rather peculiar. We were closer than friends, yet not as intimate as lovers. The nature of my connection with Barnaby became a topic of great interest among our fans. Mystery solved, Mr. Pemberton's beloved dog was a parting gift from his ex-girlfriend. The ex-girlfriend is Meredith Quarry. Mr. Pemberton is pursuing his ex-girlfriend, hoping to rekindle their relationship. The story continues. I began my acting career. Having studied drama, performing wasn't an issue for me. The challenge was finding good scripts. I started with supporting roles. The series became a massive hit, and I gained popularity through my minor role. In the next production, I landed the lead role. The following year, I was nominated for Best Actress and ultimately won the award. The auditorium was packed, with thunderous applause. Yet, amidst the crowd, I only saw him. As soon as the award ceremony ended, I rushed back to my dressing room. He was leaning against the wall, looking both dignified and relaxed. Hearing a sound, he looked up. Seeing the surprise and delight in his eyes, I ran towards him and embraced him. Our foreheads touched, and our eyes met. In his gaze, I saw a universe of starlight. "Darling, why don't you move in with me?" Barnaby Pemberton had somehow learned to be coy. Yet he still wore that cold, deep, handsome face of his. This was something I had absolutely no defense against. At the same time, there was a silly dog wagging its tail enthusiastically beside him. What could I do? I could only agree. The next day, Barnaby drove to my place. I had been living with my agent. She was more than an agent, she was also a friend. As my career improved and I earned more money, we had moved to a larger house together. After all these years, it was hard to suddenly part ways. "Audrey, I know you'll miss me," I began. My agent came out carrying 2 suitcases. "Everything's packed. Let's go, don't keep him waiting." All my reluctance to leave suddenly vanished without a trace. Barnaby's car pulled into a small estate. "Meredith, do you remember this place?" he asked. Of course, I did. In the beginning, when Barnaby and I were living in a rented flat, there was a construction site across the road. "When we've saved enough money, shall we buy a house there?" we dreamed. Back then, it was just a messy building site. Now, it had become a fully developed estate. It wasn't the most luxurious development, but to my former self, it had been a dream home. As we reached the front door, Barnaby had barely opened it when a large figure came bounding out, circling around me excitedly. "I told him this morning I was going to pick you up, and he's been waiting by the door ever since, looking out eagerly," Barnaby explained. "All right then, you silly dog. You're forgiven." Biscuit, our golden retriever, started trying to carry the luggage inside. I had just sat down when Biscuit tried to climb onto my lap. However, he nearly crushed me with his weight. "Silly dog, you really have no idea how big you are, do you? Still thinking you're a little puppy." In the end, Barnaby had to rescue me. He had been laughing at my predicament earlier, but later that evening, when the mood was just right and a dog's head suddenly appeared between us, Barnaby wasn't laughing anymore. Faced with Biscuit's innocent gaze, I couldn't bring myself to do anything inappropriate either. Barnaby, frowning, took Biscuit outside the room for a stern talk. Biscuit sat obediently, but his face seemed to say, "I'm sorry, but I'll probably do it again." It annoyed Barnaby to no end. I couldn't help but find it amusing. The son you raised, you'll have to deal with. Memories flowed through my mind like a gentle stream. I looked at the man sitting beside me, then at the silly dog stealing glances at me. Two humans and a dog, living in peaceful contentment.